Hey first graders, it's Mrs. Daniel from Citizenship Academy, and today we're going to work on Module 6, Lesson 1. Let's look at our objective for today. Our objective is to compare with difference unknown problem types. So we're going to be solving problems, and we're going to use tape diagrams today. So our first problem, we're going to model a change unknown problem with numerals within the tape rather than dots. So we're going to use some numbers also. Here's our word problem. Rose wrote 8 letters to her friends. Her goal is to write 12 letters. How many more letters does she need to write to meet her goal? We're going to unpack this word problem. So first we read our word problem. Next, we want to use a tape diagram to solve how many more letters Rose needs to write. We can also use linking cubes to help us solve it. So, right here we show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We show 8 dots because that's how many letters Rose wrote. Now, 12 is our total. That's how many she wants to write for her goal. So we do this to show for this whole thing, we want it to be 12. So what we have to figure out is this question mark here. How many more does she need to write? So we could solve this by doing an add on, counting on or adding. 8 plus what? 8 plus what gives us 12. So we could count on. We can also show this problem using linking cubes. So we would need 8 linking cubes. She wrote 8 letters to her friends. So we would show the number 8 here. And this R represents Rosie because she's the one who wrote the letters. So Rosie, this is how many she wrote so far, 8. 8 plus what equals 12? Her goal is to write 12 letters. Is that a part of how many letters she wants to write, or is that the total of letters she wants to write? So is 12 the total or a part? We can look at it's the total. And this is where you put the total, up here. So this is a part, this number will be a part, and this is the total. So that means that there are some more letters that Rosie needs to write. We just don't know how many more yet. So this represents more letters that she needs to write. So we could also solve this by doing subtraction. We could say 12 minus 8 equals this number here. What is 12 minus 8? 4. Very good. How many more letters does Rose need to write? 4 more letters. Rose needs to write 4 more letters. Let's look at this problem. Rose wrote 8 letters. Nikhil wrote 12 letters. How many more letters did Nikhil write than Rose? So we can lay down, these are those cubes, and we can lay them down on our board, line them up at the ends, and we can look and see how many more there are. This represents Rosie. She did 8 letters, so there's 8 here. And this one represents Nicole, and she wrote 12 letters. So this is another way that you can look and see the difference in the 2 letters that they wrote, the number of letters that they wrote. So you can also do a double tape diagram. That means that you have 2 tape diagrams. So this one shows 8, and this is Rosie. Rosie wrote 8 letters. Now if we look down here, this same space, this is the same amount. So Nicole also wrote 8 letters, but then she also wrote some more. And that's what we want to figure out. How many more did she write past the 8? They both wrote 8 letters, and then Nicole wrote more. Nicole wrote 12 letters all together. How many more letters did Nicole write than Rose? This tape represents 8, so this much of Nicole's tape is also 8. Since this is the same length, this also shows 8. It's the same length. And this part of Nicole's tape represents how many more letters he wrote. Right here. This is how many more letters he wrote. What is the total number of letters Nicole wrote? If you look here, this is where it shows you the total. See these little arms? The arms point to the total. So this is the total number, 12. 12 letters. What is the part of Nicole's letters that's the same number as Rosie's letters? Which one shows the same numbers? Rosie wrote 8. Nicole also wrote 8. So 8 letters is what they wrote the same. The 8 letters. How many more letters did Nicole write than Rose? How can we figure out the unknown part? The part with the question mark. We can subtract 12 minus 8. We can count on starting at 8 and count up to 12. We can count those missing pieces on the extra pieces that were on the side with those counting cubes, linking cubes. So 12 minus 8 equals 4. So that means Nicole wrote 4 more letters than Rose. Who wrote fewer letters? Who wrote less? Rose or Nicole? Rose wrote fewer letters. She wrote the smaller amount. How do you know that? Oh, because 8 is smaller than 12? I agree with that. How many fewer letters did Rose write than Nicole? 4 fewer letters. If Rose wanted to have the same number of letters as Nicole, let's draw a circle around the space. Right here is where those letters would be. So if she wrote more letters, we would add them here. She would have to write the same amount. So we said 4 was here. So we would have to write 4 here in order for them to have the same amount of letters. because she already did 8 and she did 8. So if she did 4 to match this 4, then they would have the same number of letters. They both would have written 12 letters. But right now, Rose only wrote 8 and Nicole wrote 12. Let's look at another word problem. Tamra collected 9 seashells on the beach. Julio collected 11 seashells. How many more seashells did Julio collect? So we can use our linking cubes to show. We have Tamra, who did 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have Julio, who did 11. We can easily see, just by looking at the linking cubes, who did more? Julio. Who did less? Tamra. And how many more Julio did? Look, line that up. Then how many more? 1, 2. So linking cubes is a great way to model the word problem. You can also use a tape diagram. So Tamra did 9, so we write the 9 here. And we know that Julio, he did 11. So 11 is the total for Julio. And we want to figure out, so if Tamra did 9, and this is how long hers was, then if we do the same size rectangle, that will equal 9 as well for Julio. But Julio's rectangle needs to be a little bit longer because he found more seashells. So this is how many more he found. See how it's longer? So he found some more seashells, and this is where they go. And 9 and this number equals 11. 11 is the total, 9 is a part, and this one is a part. How many more seashells did Julio collect than Tamra? So if we have 9 and we want to go up to 11, okay, that's the part that shows how many more. So that's where we would put our what number? 2. 2 more. Julio did 2 more. The total number of shells that he collected was 11. And the part that's the same as Tamara is 9. They both did 9, but then Julio collected more. How many more shells did Julio collect than Rose? We can do subtraction, 11 minus 9. We can do counting up, 9 counting up to 11. The answer is 2 shells. How many more shells did Julio collect? Julio collected 2 more shells. Who collected fewer? Tamra, she collected less. Her number was smaller than Julio's number, so that's how we know. 8, 9 is smaller than 11. So if Tamra wanted to collect more to have the same number as Julio, this is where we would put it, right here. She would have to collect 2 more seashells to have the same number as Julio. How many seashells did Tamra and Julio collect? They both collected 9 seashells. And then Julio collected a little bit more. All right. We're at the end of our lesson for today, friends. It was so nice to do math with you today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.